Hey everyone, welcome to Taste Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Rumors. Rumors of Sony is reportedly working on a new PlayStation handheld, and it is not the Portal. It's not a Portal 2. It is doesn't have a name, but it basically is going to be compatible with PlayStation 4 and 5 titles. The new PlayStation handheld is allegedly in the works, which suggests Sony may be returning to the handheld market. They had the Vita, the PSP, might be coming back with something new, not the Portal, not a streaming box, because this one is going to be playing PlayStation 4 and 5 games natively on the device for those games that receive a patch. So basically, Sony's been working with AMD, so does Xbox. They work with AMD as well. We through insiders and stuff, we already know that for the next PlayStation console, that Sony is working with AMD again on the collaborating with them on the next console. So the speculation is based on Sony's collaboration with AMD to create a custom APU. So although the specific purpose of this APU remains undisclosed, insiders hint at the possibility of it being utilized for the new PlayStation handheld or, whatever variation, whatever they call it. The handheld devices, like I said, going to be playing PlayStation 4 and 5 games, but not streaming them. It'll be native to the handheld. According to insights shared on YouTube, Sony seems to be planning a return to the handheld gaming sector by introducing fresh hardware. The report claims that Sony is now in the early phases of creating a new handheld PlayStation device powered by AMD. The console, which, of course, it hasn't been given the go-ahead for potential release yet, and is in the high-level design phase, will run a customized AMD GPU and will released at least 2 years from now. Upcoming PlayStation handheld, the rumors predict that it will probably use 18 CUs in order to remain compatible with every PlayStation 4 game that is currently available on the PlayStation store. Furthermore, PlayStation 5 games will also work with the handheld. However, Sony would need to apply patches to ensure appropriate console functionality. Basically, with a Sony's AMD contract with their contract with AMD, this might lead to them potentially putting this handheld out at the same time they play the PlayStation 6 out. It could be, or this could be the new PlayStation 6. I don't know. I mean, Switch is dominating that handheld market with having that handheld console combo. Never know. Sony and Xbox may be heading that way. Now, the reason why the PlayStation 5 games need a patch is because the handheld, from the rumors, is the handheld will not. It doesn't have quite the beefiness of a PlayStation 5. So in order to, basically the patch would basically dumb it down so it can play on the handheld, essentially. So, I mean, that's cool. On that same note, Xbox is also rumored to be making a handheld. It is also rumored to be 2 years away. However, the thing about Xbox's handheld is we really don't know much more than just that. That yes, they are working on one, which could mean anything. Could mean that they thought of it, or Phil dreamed it one night, or someone said handheld in the office one day. That could just be what happened. And we don't know for the Xboxes if it's going to be a streaming device, something similar to the Portal, or if it's going to be something similar to this, where it's going to be able to natively play games on the handheld and not just a streaming device. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And that's pretty much, again, this is all rumors and speculation. This is coming from insiders that are pretty credible. They usually get a lot of this stuff correct, or at least know the happenings on at Sony and Xbox. So a lot of their stuff is most of the time comes out to be true. Now, you could say that a lot of their stuff is or close to 100% true. It's just like, thing about insiders and speculation and stuff that's way far away. The fact that Sony or Xbox is talking about these things does not mean that they'll ever see the light of day, right? So, that happens all the time. These companies innovate, they create new things, they patent a lot of stuff, they work on a lot of things that they and finalize and do a lot of research and development into a lot of aspects of things, but a lot of those things just never materialize into anything other than that, right? We've seen Sony, and we've talked about Sony and Microsoft patenting and Nintendo patenting a lot of stuff, and then never hear about it again, right? And a lot of companies get patents because they might one day, make whatever that is, and they don't want someone else to take the idea, or to take what ideas they have within the patent. So they patent it, and then they just hold on to it, right? In case they get a wild hair up their butt and decide to do something with it, which a lot of them don't, right? A lot of them just sit on those and either let them expire or they renew them every time and still don't do anything with them. But, so take everything with a grain of salt. This is all speculation. But, for me, I would, in case of Sony's, because we don't know what Xbox's is, I would hope the Xbox One plays them natively. This would be something I would be down with. If this was what the Portal did, the PlayStation Portal, if it could natively play games on it, I would be all about the Portal. The reason why I wasn't is because, and the reason I'm not, and don't own one to this day, and probably never will own a Portal, is because all it does is remote play from the PlayStation, which I don't need to buy a $200 device, just remote play. I won't use it that often, right? If I had a legitimate use for it, maybe, but I know me personally, I don't travel a lot. I'm not away from the house. I have a separate room with a separate TV that my PlayStation hooks up to. So, if my kids or whatever want to watch something, they have their own TVs and various things like that. And I know not everybody's situation is that way, but for mine it is. So I don't have a use for the Portal. But something like this would be really cool. I would use something that I can natively play games on, because I can remote play on anything else, right? You don't have to buy the Portal to remote play. Yeah, you can remote play on your phone. You can remote play on just about anything. And remote play's been around for years. Been around since the PlayStation 3. So it's not a new thing. I guess it's cool for some people that there's a dedicated device for it, but again, that's ease, comfort, accessibility, luxury, really, than it is anything else, right? I have this one device that has one thing that it does. Even though I have a device or several devices that can do the same thing, I don't want to use that. I don't want to tie that device up. So I get it for some people, it's you do you, boo. That's all I have to say about that. But anyway, Pat, what do you think of these handheld devices coming out from Sony and Xbox and Microsoft?
If all they can do is play PlayStation and Xbox console games, I'm out. I don't have a need for it. Like you, I don't travel for work anymore, and when I do travel, it's for vacation or family time these days, and at that time I'm interacting with my friends or family or whatever while we're traveling and not really playing a game. So, I mean, for the limited amount of time that I may play it, because I don't go on a vacation every year, I'm not that lucky to have that much money or anything, but I really have no use for anything that has its own exclusives. Right now, if it comes out with its own exclusive games, that may be another story, right? Like the PSP and the PlayStation Vita had their own games that weren't necessarily on the main console, maybe, right? But I don't, because I think Nintendo operates in this market for probably two main reasons: cost and the name of Nintendo. Nintendo has been synonymous with handheld gaming for a very long time, right? They've had the DS and all that stuff, all those different handheld consoles, and it pretty much kind of stayed in the market with that stuff. So they're already synonymous with handheld gaming. So Nintendo just stayed in there with the Switch, and then, if with Switch 2 rumor is true, whatever. But I mean, Xbox has a claim, I would say, to a mobile market for people who can't afford a console and who want to play streaming games. because I think that's where Microsoft's going. They have a very robust streaming service for games. Now, I don't stream games. I think it's worthless for me. For me, it's for me. But Xbox has often been pushing you don't need a console to play our games, right? You can stream it to your TV, you can stream it to this, stream it to that from our streaming service. I'd prefer to play it on my console, and it does all the rendering and everything for me. So I could see a use for that. Now, if Sony's not going that direction, how are they going to entice you to buy this instead of buying a PS5? Or if it comes out at the same time as a if it's supposed to have the same capability of PS4 and 5, it can't come out with the PS6, in my opinion, because then what's the point? What is the point? I can play the older games on a handheld. For me, it's not worth it. But for people who are on the go, I can imagine something like this being very useful if I rode the bus to work every day or commuted to work every day and wasn't driving, or had like a lot of downtime when I'm away from the house. But for me, it's not a benefit. Like I am baffled at the Portal sales. I am just completely baffled and blindsided by that. You have to have a PlayStation to play it, and you have to be in the same household. Now, there are some trickeries you can do with VPNs and stuff like that to make it work, but at that point, it's just you're going to get some latency issues, I think, unless you're just on some fiber backbone somewhere connecting like two 100 gig connections or something together. I don't know. But to me, it just doesn't seem like a very worthwhile. Now, I've heard from people, and this makes sense, but this should be like not the majority of people, where they're like, all I have is my PlayStation hooked up to my living room TV. So if the wife or the parents are on the TV in the living room, guess what? You can't really play your PlayStation, right? Because it's the only TV. Makes sense. Perfect sense to me. But unless you fit into those categories, I don't know how that's going to be a warranted device, because I don't see them making it $300. I don't. If they charge you $200 for a streaming device, how are they going to be able to justify $300 for a handheld? It's going to be a $500 handheld probably, which Nintendo's in the market because they're three. I think when it first came out, there's $350, right? And you can pick up a Switch now for $200 or less easy. Even if you want to go the light route, you can get it cheaper. So you got to be able to make it affordable, and it's got to be the only device that people are going to be using. Like you got to convince me not to buy a PS6, to buy this, which means that either the PS6 is going to be a $700 console and this is going to be a $400 console. And then even then I'd be like, is it comparable in specs? Probably not. So I would be hard pressed to buy it. I don't think I could buy a $700 PlayStation console, though. I wouldn't do that. I don't think I'd buy a $700 Microsoft console, neither. But that's just me. So it worries me when companies are going to spend this amount of money on what your market is, right? Like you've got to have a market, and Microsoft's market makes a little bit more sense than PlayStation's, but PlayStation has some diehard fans. I mean, PlayStation fans are on par with Apple fans almost. If it's got the PlayStation name on it, people are going to buy it because it says PlayStation. And there are fervent fans on both sides, but I think there are more on the PlayStation side that buy PlayStation because of the PlayStation name than there are people on the Xbox side buy stuff because of the Xbox on it. Like I'm just like Nick and our other buddy Shane. We own all of them. We own Nintendo, we own PlayStation, we own Xbox, and lots of older retro consoles amongst us. We all have different retro consoles and stuff. And over the years, we've all bought that. I did not own a Vita or a PSP. Never bought either one of them. I never had a use for them. At that point when those guys were out, I was big into PC gaming, more than console gaming even. But then when I started getting back into console gaming, I really didn't buy the DSs or things like that. I bought my girlfriend at the time DS and DS XL and 3DS and all that stuff, So, I always thought of the 3DSs and things like that as something for the non-gamer gamers, and what I mean by that is less than casual gamers, right? Because I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer by any means. I'm not like I game a lot, but I'm not like what I would consider the hardcore people, wake up every minute of every hour playing a game or something. I make time to do other things, and I'm not into competitive games, which is what you see a lot of those hardcore gamers. I play games for enjoyment and fun, and I do put a lot of time into them, but like the mobile games are for people, the handhelds are for people who play like a couple hours a day or a few hours a week. They're not like avid gamers, is how I always felt about that. Now, the Switch has, I have games on the Switch that I've dumped tons and tons of hours into, but it's a rarity, to be honest, on the Switch side that I do that with a game. But there are some out there. So I worry that Sony and Microsoft are going to dump a bunch of money into something that's not going to work. But Sony will be safe, I feel, because Sony's fanboys will just buy it out. It'll be sold out. The Portal has basically proven that to me, that if you slap Sony's name on it, it will sell out. But that's what that says to me. Yeah. And Xbox has a streaming thing, right? That makes sense to me. So outside of that, it's a no-go for me unless it's exclusive. It has its own games, because I'm not away from my TV enough to want to play on a handheld device. I remember when this is bigger than most handhelds back in the day. I remember having like the Game Gear from Sega, and its screen was probably like half the size of this. And I was like, ooh, and now I'm like, I don't want to play something on this. It's too small, but it is what it is. And to each their own. If you enjoy that, cool, more power to you. But, I would prefer to play it on my big screen television, that kids today are different, though. I think you and I, Nick, have made this comment before, where my daughter prefers to play on a small screen, and so does your son. They prefer to use a small screen. I'm like, I want to get a new basement TV. You want my 65-inch in your room on the wall? No. What? You don't want to play games on that? I remember when I was my kid's age, I'd be chomping at the bit if my dad offered me a big screen TV for my room. But the younger generation these days, they're like, no, I don't want that. I'm like, okay. So this handheld will probably meet a market somewhere, and it'll make money for them, I hope. But I won't get it unless it has exclusive games that are only on it that I just have to play, right?
Yeah.
What is your justification, Nick? Why would you get one of these? What use do you see for it?
Pretty much what you laid out, as far as like people who travel, or like, very similar to the PlayStation Portal one. Now, like I said at the beginning, I would be more interested in a device that can play natively. But when it comes to it, if that's its only function is to play natively, I would have to agree with you. I don't know if I would be like putting down the cash for it, because I don't travel that often. And so it's like, I really got to think about, like, would I really use this, or would it just sit on the shelf and collect dust? And it would probably sit on the shelf and collect dust, because I would rather play, just like you, on the TV and stuff like that. Now, if it had exclusives to the device, then I would, about 99.9% sure I would be picking one up for PlayStation and Xbox. But if they only played it its only thing is it plays them natively, but it's games that you own already on your PlayStation or whatever, then I'd be very, very hesitant, and probably pretty high percentage that I would not pick one up, similar to the Portal. So
if it had exclusives, I'd be asking, can I dock it to my TV, though, too? So
yeah. Which, I mean, they should have the option. I mean, even like plugging it in, like, throwing the display
like
up
the
on the
Steam
television.
Deck does.
Yeah. Or like the Switch or something.
I mean, because there's a good case in point of something, right? The Steam Deck. I don't own a Steam Deck because I have a computer, and I just have no need for that. If I were traveling a lot, I probably would own a Steam Deck. I'm completely honest with you. I would probably own one if I traveled a lot. And I would take that with me. I would just make a decision. Do I want to play the Switch in this travel session, or do I want to play the that? Or I think, who's got another one? Does Asus got one, or whoever's doing the Legacy or whatever?
Yeah, they got the Asus Ally, the Ally.
The Ally, yeah. And somebody else has got one too. Lenovo, I think, has got one coming out.
Yeah, theirs is the Legion. I think it's
Legion. That's what I'm saying. Legion. Yeah. So I mean, that has a market, because it's not as much as like a big old computer, and it's really just a handheld gaming device with that services. So I can see that, but for me, it's a no-go.
Yeah, and with the Steam Deck, and I don't know about the Ally and the Legion. I assume you can, but I know with the Steam Deck, you can dock it and display it on your TV or whatever. I don't know if the Ally and the Legion, I don't know if you can dock those, but I know the Steam Deck you can dock. So the Steam Deck's really good if you didn't have a computer that met up to the specs of the Steam Deck and weren't planning on buying one. I don't know why you wouldn't, but let's say for whatever reason you wanted the portability of the Steam Deck, but you also want to have a better computer that you have now, the portability of the Steam Deck, and you can dock the Steam Deck to play your Steam games, then that might be a better route to go, right? For that purpose. I would go the route of buying a desktop PC, something. But if you decided like, hey, but if you got like a monster rig, then you don't have really a purpose of doing that unless, like you said, you travel a lot. If you travel a lot, then yeah, I mean, handhelds make perfect sense for that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with these handhelds. I mean, hopefully they make them more than just that. I have a feeling they'll be just that, but hopefully they make them more than that. I would imagine Xbox's is probably going to be a Game Pass streaming handheld is what I would think that they would make. And who knows if this Sony one, who knows if it'll see the light of day. I don't know if they'll. I mean, it seems like they're pretty confident in making it, but time. 2 years is a ways out, so who knows how long that'll.
And that's 2 years till the APU is available. So then once the APU is available, they got to make sure the architecture meshes with it, the development architecture. So, I mean, you're looking at probably 3 years before you see one of these, which is around the time when you should see the next gen console. So is the APU going to be able to push it, or is it just going to be like the APU just meets last year's specs and it's what you get? And every new game that has to come out that they put out will just have a patch to dumb it down. But then that's a development nightmare that we're already seeing with Xbox and their Series S freaking debacle. So,
right. I would say, like, for Sony, I would say scrap the handheld and just make it to where the PlayStation 6 can play PlayStation 5 and 4 games. Like, you can pop, if they do a disc drive, you can pop it in there and play your PlayStation 4 and 5 games, as well as your PlayStation 6 games in there. Like, whatever you need to do. You're already creating something you're essentially creating like an APU for the handheld that is pretty much a backwards compatible type of architecture for this handheld. So just put it into the PlayStation 6 and say, hey, we got this. You can play, your backwards compatibility on there. I mean, hopefully, because you can play PlayStation 4 games on your PlayStation 5. So I don't know if you can put a disc in. Yeah, you can put a disc in and play. Yeah. So just keep that trend going, Sony. But I mean, we'll see. And you're right about Sony people, Sony fans. They will buy just about anything. I mean, Sony could put PlayStation can slap their name on a rock and people would buy it and it'd be sold out. The PlayStation Rock, and all it is a rock. But it's got their name on it.
Got the PS logo on it, PlayStation logo, and PlayStation colors.
Yeah.
It's the new log.
It's the new log. Exactly. I mean, but that's true about a lot of devices, and you're right. Like even Apple, right? Apple users. My girlfriend's an Apple user, and everything she has is Apple, and Apple is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I always make fun of her because she's like, I can't do something or whatever. And I say, yeah, it's because it's an Apple. Because I have an Android. All mine is Android stuff. But it's just funny. But whatever. To each their own. Like I said, you want to go buy a Sony Rock? I honestly do not care. Buy whatever you want. It's your money. You do what you want with it. Again, like the Portal, I don't have a need for it, but there are people that do, and so for those people that do, I understand if they went out and bought one. But for the people that don't, I feel like you went out and bought it for FOMO, right? That was the whole reason. Or it was Sony branded and you buy anything that they put out there, right? Because, I see a lot of people talk about how great it is and I love this thing. And it's like, I have a feeling that's going to be sitting after the FOMO wears off for you as an individual who bought it, who really didn't need it. Once that wears off, it's going to be sitting on the shelf and collecting dust because you're not going to touch it ever again.
That was a Steam link for me. I bought it, plugged it in, did like one session with it. I'm like, this is cool. And then it never left the box again.
Yeah, my Steam Link did the same thing. But I mean, we're guilty of it too. You know, we buy crap all the time because it's new and you know we like it or whatever, and we end up getting it and we play it for a little bit, and it sits up on the shelf or in the box or whatever, and it never comes back out again, right? Maybe once in a while when we remember that it's there, like, oh yeah, that thing. So we're guilty of it too. Not pointing fingers here. If we are, we're pointing fingers at ourselves as well because we're bad about that stuff too. Everybody is. I'm just saying, like, everybody needs to do a better job of picking the stuff that they should buy. That's a life lesson for myself, for us, and for everyone else out there. Be more considerate of the things that you purchase with your money. But yeah, this will be interesting to see what happens. And with it, you're 100% right. You know, it's probably closer to 3 years out, maybe even 4 years out, possibly at the longest. So, you know, it'll be a while before this comes out, and who knows what's going to change between now and then, right? In the gaming industry and the gaming market with PlayStation and everything. So hard to say, you know, this is the beginning times of these devices coming to fruition. So do you got anything else you want to add to this? All right. Well, let us know down in the comments below. Would you be interested in an Xbox or PlayStation handheld, not the Portal, but one that natively plays PlayStation 4 and 5 games? And for the Xbox, again, we don't know what it does. You know, it may natively play Xbox games or it may just stream Game Pass. I would assume it's going to probably just stream Game Pass, but who knows? What would you be interested in a device like that? Right? Let us know down in the comments below. You know, what do you think of handheld gaming? What's your preference? You know, I have a Vita. I have a 3DS. I used to have a PSP. I don't have one anymore, but I do have a Vita still. And my 3DS is still over there. And I still turn them on from time to time and play with them when I think about it. Very rarely, though. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. It's just I don't find a lot of time to play handhelds. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like the video. Hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. And we'll see you next time.